Hey, it's Zim, and should you play Craft the World? Now, this game came out back in 2014, so you might be asking, why am I bringing it up now? And the simple answer is that this game, though it came out, 7 years ago now, and that was the official release. I think this was actually in early access for a little while. It's still getting updated. This game is still receiving new DLC, new content, new patches to fix problems, which, I love the dedication to. Obviously, as you can see at the bottom here, it is made by Decavir Entertainment. It's got a ton of cool things going on with it. It's kind of a crafter builder with a little bit of story, and as you can see in the background right now, it's showing off like one of my current playthroughs. But it's a game I keep coming back to throughout my different game stints that I go through, and I think it's something that you might want to check out. Now, as you can see over here, there's tons of DLC. A lot of the DLC can be a little bit overpriced, I'll say, although there are a couple that are quite cheap that really add to the game. So I believe Abandoned Mines was free content, Grottos was like $1, and Sisters in Arms, which also adds pets, was like $3, and all of those are pretty worth the price for what you get. Now this game is normally $18.99. I would say that price is fairly fair for what you're getting, but I couldn't blame you if you waited for a sale because of how old this game is. But we're going to go ahead and kind of show off some things. We'll create a new world here. Now you can start with a campaign, and if you're doing a campaign, you are set to go into a certain order. But we're going to show custom game. Actually, you know what? I will show you the campaign real quick. So as you can see, you start off on level 1, and the world is set to be very easy. It's easy to find the resources you're trying to get to, and basically your full game through is trying to get through a tech ladder until you can collect enough resources throughout the world, basically these rune stones, to open up a new portal to go to the next world. The next world is going to be more difficult, both in the wildlife being more aggressive and harder hitting against your dwarves, but also the resources you're trying to find are also harder to deal with. And as you can note, there are several campaigns all the way up to 4. I will say that the campaigns themselves I don't find very interesting, gets a little bit tiresome, and also it kind of makes you play against enemy waves that aren't very interesting. It's just like every 20 minutes you feel like you have to stop what you're doing and then defend against waves, which I think is very boring. So I often do custom games because they're just more fun that way. Obviously, you get to choose how big you want the world, if you want weather events, what type of world you want, and once again, the type is going to also still dictate the difficulty of resources. So if you start in the desert, you're going to have a harder time finding, like, wood, for example. You can choose tech tree, or if you want all of them to be available, or sandbox, so just kind of freeform. Both are tech tree, so I can show you what you'd expect in a campaign. And then also difficulty. So permanent death is your dwarves would die permanently. Which means that they wouldn't respawn to your cap, essentially. And then obviously difficulty is going to be the... in this case, in custom games, it's just going to be the enemies that are naturally in your world, how harder they are, and how much damage they're doing to you. But we'll just do normal for now, and we're not going to do permanent death either. I'll show you Forest World because that's kind of what you'd end up starting on at first, and then we'll jump to something a little bit different as well later on in the video. Alright, and as you can see, we are starting this world. Now, if you don't have the DLC, all your dwarves will be male. However, in this game I have the DLC, so we will have female dwarves as well. Now we're going to start by essentially building a base and colony, and we have different tasks. Doing tasks will essentially make it to where you'll gain different things, so XP or even extra dwarves as you complete these tasks. You get that by leveling up. Essentially, your level is going to be in the upper right hand corner here, and this will dictate everything that you get throughout the entire play. Certain technologies can only be unlocked once you also hit certain levels. You can control what you want your dwarves to be doing or focusing on, balanced battle, resource, or you can kind of customize your own settings there. You can also speed up the time by clicking on your level. But let's start by getting this done. Now, right now, she's just using a knife, which is not ideal. So, we've cut down a tree, and we're awarded 10 XP. I will say that the Dwarven AI, or the AI that they use for your workers, can be pretty frustrating at times. They won't exactly go in the order that you've clicked on things. Some of them can find themselves getting stuck because of orders just not being followed. It can be a little bit frustrating. I will say that's one of my biggest problems with this game. Now, they have improved the AI over and over again throughout each time that they patch or do expansions. So like I said, this game continues to get updates, which makes it kind of worthwhile. Now, we can also equip our dwarves with different things. You'll also note that while you're open in these techs, the tech tree or with the inventory screen itself, it pauses the outer world. So you won't have to worry about like something bad happening and you're not paying attention and then suddenly, you know, one of your dwarves die. Obviously not too big of a deal if you're not playing permadeath, because eventually they'll just come back as respawns. Although each dwarf has its own like kind of personal level with certain skills that they get to do, and so losing that can be a real big negative. But we can get an axe, but we don't have any stone. So it looks like we're going to want stone, but we can definitely make this club. So we will make a club for him. And just like that, we'll gain some XP for crafting, which probably means we'll get another dwarf. But we can also equip here. And so now they have a knife, and they've got a club for fighting. And as you can see, we leveled up. And there we go. We're getting extra dwarf. We have a totem. This is kind of a housing thing. And some leaves, which is for just crafting in general. You also note on the bottom here, we have 2 spells. One where we can direct people where to go. And one which opens a portal. Now their portal will always connect back to this central base here, which cannot be moved. A little bit frustrating, but not the end of the world. Also, enemies can drop from trees. These beetles tend not to be tough, even on hard modes. But this is basically the game. You're going to be crafting, and if we want to zoom out, you can obviously see that the world is quite large, both sides of it, but it does end with these essentially endless oceans. However, you can also go down. Now, this, I think, was just a normal-sized world, so it's not going to be very deep. And then there are tons of different things to find in here, including abandoned mining tunnels, grottos, things like that, enemy bosses, runes, and what have you. Now, what we can see is I need stone to build those axes and things, but I don't have really great access to stone because this is kind of covered in water. However, we can use that portal spell to figure out where we want to start mining stone from, and we can do that. Now we also see gravestones over here. Gravestones means it will summon undead. That's both a negative and a positive. The negative is obviously enemy waves will spawn with more things coming at you. The positive is that you get bones as a resource from skeletons. So as you can see, our dwarven guy has ported in, and he'll start breaking these down for stone. While she's still collecting other things. You also see a portal has a timer, and this all costs mana. Mana is going to be in the upper left-hand corner here, so we have 5 out of 9 with a timer that will give us 1 mana back. There are other items later on that you can craft that will increase the mana generation, and then the mana cost is kind of by the spell at the bottom right-hand corner of it. Anyways, as exciting as this is currently, I'm going to jump to another game I've kind of already building stuff and not on a new start like this. Alrighty, and we're back here. Now, I realized I didn't show you the tech tree, but this is your tech tree in your campaigns. Now, these will get rearranged as your campaigns get harder, or at least some of it will, I should say. But as you can see, there's different arrows, so you have basic tool making, and then if I want basic furnishing, I have to complete basic tool making. And then if I want basic cooking, I need to do both basic furnishing and basic illumination, and so on and so forth. So you can see how like you'll have to do different technologies to unlock certain ones. So like I don't have master furnishing because I never completed weaving in this playthrough. Now currently what I'm showing off is my first campaign mission that I did ever. And as you can see, we've got a lot going on. Now as we zoom out, you can see I have a massive kind of base. We've got some elevators going on. We've also got some train rails that can go across the entire world. It's quite expansive. Oh, and we're attacked by zombies here. It's quite expansive what you can do and differently just kind of build throughout. Now, like I said, you were also trying to collect runes to move on throughout the campaign. Those are found in these kind of ancient stone buildings, usually with a couple defenders and like a defender boss. And then eventually you'd open up this portal here, and this portal would allow you to, once you've completed it, move on to the next campaign mission. So as you can see, just tons of different things going on. And as we can see here, we have some dwarven AI issues, like how did they get here? So what probably happened was I told them to move, and then they didn't. So I'll have to give them a portal. But let's see if they'll figure out that there's a portal there. Sometimes it takes a little while. Yep, there we go. If you're worried that they'll come back, you can always close your portals early. But as you can see, just tons of different things. You need to feed your dwarves as well, and food variety is important. And they all have just different things that they can do. Like dwarf is training, for example, to be better at combat. Like I said, all dwarves have different skills, so it kind of matters when they die. So you get to choose their skills based on essentially finding skill books throughout the world, and you'll be rewarded with them as you level as well. You can also see the timer up in the right-hand corner. This is the campaign-only minion wave. Like I said, it just gets tiresome on how often you're just like, all right, I have to stop everything and prepare for this minion wave that's going to attack. Now, eventually you do get to start setting up defenses, but even then you're going to want to have your dwarves hanging around to fight. As you can notice, we also have a little pet here. Those will also fight or hunt down vermin. Vermin are more of an issue early in the game, but not so much late in the game. And as you can see, there's tons of different resources you can harvest through iron, coal, it looks like silver, there's gold, and there's other types of metals as well. Each one required for different things in your tech tree, and obviously makes better equipment throughout. So that's kind of a more advanced game going on in progress. You also have different home furnishings. This will make your dwarves more happy, and a better comfort level means that they rest faster and heal faster if they get injured throughout combat. Like I said, Craft the World is a game that I have really enjoyed throughout, I don't know, I've owned it probably 2 years now, year and a half. And it's something that I constantly come back to because I just, if for whatever reason I just want to relax, put on a YouTube video, something like that, and I want to be doing something as well, this is a great game for that. Especially with the custom modes where you're not worried about constantly having your base under attack. So, this is also on the forest world. I'm going to show you off one more world, just kind of show you how different it can be. And then I will give my final thoughts on this. Alright, just really quickly showing off the different worlds. This is the ice world, it'd be your second campaign. And obviously you can see that you have more ice. Now what's difficult about this world is you're going to have a lack of water. So you're going to actually have to melt snow and ice to generate that water. And as you can see, for the most part, probably not going to be too much harder. The challenge itself isn't too difficult. And then, obviously, the creatures are going to be a little bit different as well, but they serve the same purpose. So, in this case, in Forest World, these big blue creatures are boars. In this case, they're more like giant turtle-looking things, and they drop leather. Versus these birds, chickens in the Forest World, but they will drop eggs, feathers. But we're going to move on to the next world. Alrighty, and we're in the desert world. Now, deserts tend to have a lot of sand. Sand will actually collapse in on itself. It's not a stable building material. As you can see, you'll always have these nice little art backdrops. And then we have a little bit different sandstone. There's also mummies more persistent in these worlds. And also difference in wildlife. And those blue turtle creatures are now ox, and we have a kind of a dodo-looking bird instead. There's also sheep in the Forest World. In this case, they are these lambs in the back. Those will drop fur, which you can use to make string and things like that. And then the difficulty, like I said, is less structurally sound building areas because of sand constantly collapsing in, so you're going to have to dig deeper. Kind of harsher animal life because it's going to deal more damage, more mummies, like I said, which will also cause a threat. And then water tends to actually be very difficult. Now, luckily, this starting setup gave us water right here, but what you'd want to do is build kind of a stone basin to collect water, because if it lands on sand, it won't build up really. And so water does become a harsher resource in this world. Moving on to the next world, though. Now, finally, for the base game is the cavern world. As you can see, we have a giant cavern in the background for the backdrop, but a little bit differently, there's also these sky platforms, which tend to have all your tree resource or wood. Wood is very difficult to come by in this world. Obviously, the enemies are much, much harder, and more unique variety of them. But otherwise, that's as far as that goes. Obviously, the underground is much larger as well with these worlds, and they tend to be more dangerous. The further you dig down, the more likely you're going to find those creatures that are going to be very deadly to multiple of your dwarves. So unless you have a large force there, they will get wiped out. So those are the 4 biomes. Like I said, that's for the base game. I think you can actually buy in one of the DLCs, which unlocks another world or 2. But I have not bought those, and honestly, I don't feel like you need to buy those. I think for the base price of $18.99, what you're getting is fairly plentiful. If we go back and look at the first world that I think it was 15 hours in that game of me just enjoying and exploring different things. Now, obviously, you could probably beat that campaign mission much faster, but I was just playing around with just tons of different things and having a lot of fun with it, until eventually I was like, all right, I should progress the campaign because I wanted to see what it's like, only to realize that it progresses you to the next world and you do the same thing again. I will say the campaign is a little bit lackluster, but there's still a ton of fun to be had here, especially with custom games and just having fun by exploring the tech tree, creating different wild and wacky buildings. It's very much a sandbox game, so the amount of fun that you want to have, you kind of have to put in yourself. So, should you play Craft the World in 2021? I think if you're looking for a crafting game, something that's not overly complex, but can be a lot of fun, and I mean, honestly, this game doesn't take a lot of graphic resources at all, though the setting options are, I will say, quite light. As you can see, this is all you have for settings. I think this game is definitely something you should check out. If you're into the crafting games, especially the kind of these 2D colony manager games, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it, even in 2021, and knowing that, like, if you have a problem, they're probably going to still fix it, and it seems like developers are, at least for now, in this game for the long haul. Anyways, guys, that's all from me today. Let me know in the comments below if you've played Craft the World, or if there's another crafting game that you really enjoy that you think I should check out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you guys later.